Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be making a fun and super easy same-day English muffin recipe. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that like button below and subscribe, and let's get into it. First things first, let's mix up our dry ingredients. We're using half and half bread and all-purpose flour here, about 150 grams each. Then we're going to follow that up with about 15 grams of sugar, 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast, and a very carefully measured out pinch of salt. I would say about 10 grams for this recipe. Now for this dough, our liquid consists of milk and butter. So here we have about 220 grams of warmed up milk, and we'll stir in 2 tablespoons or about 30 grams of butter until it's completely melted. While the butter melts, we'll crack in 1 whole egg and slowly start to incorporate our milk in. Make sure you just add this in slowly in parts to make sure that you don't overhydrate the dough. This dough has pretty high hydration and is a bit trickier to work with as it's really sticky, but we're looking for about this consistency. Once we have that, we're going to cover it with plastic wrap and we're going to let that rise for about 1 hour until it looks something like this. The dough at this point will have at least doubled and it's going to be looking very airy. And that's exactly what we're looking for. The great thing about this recipe is you can literally make it the same morning or make it the night before and let it rise in the fridge. Either way, it's going to taste delicious. Now, after it's risen, you're going to dump your dough out on a lightly floured surface, and for this part, it's going to be really handy to have a bench scraper. This dough is going to be very sticky, and if you find that it's really hard to handle, just put a little bit of oil on your hands and your scraper, and it gets a lot easier. This recipe is great for 8 muffins, so we're going to divide that up into 8, and we're going to shape them into a rough circle. Pretty much just make it look like what you know an English muffin should look like. Oh, and almost forgot, make sure that you're putting these English muffins onto some kind of baking tray, but make sure you have semolina flour down on the bottom. This not only is going to give them that great texture that you know with English muffins, but it's definitely going to help them not stick to the baking tray when you go to take them out later. Now that you have all the English muffins formed and you've got them on the semolina flour, we're going to cover this up again for 1 more hour and let them rest and rise. After an hour, we're going to unwrap those and we're going to notice that they've definitely risen, and we're going to sprinkle them with some more semolina flour. While you're doing this, get a non-stick pan warmed up to medium heat, and then we're going to start adding the muffins, making sure that you give each of them plenty of room because they're going to expand. Because there is sugar in this dough, you want to make sure your pan doesn't get too hot or it could burn, but a medium to medium low heat should do the trick nicely. Each one of these is going to take about 4 minutes per side or until it's really browned nicely. I definitely suggest using a bigger pan to make this process go a little faster. As you can tell, I was working at 1 muffin or 2 muffins at a time, and it definitely took a while. But when these do hit the hot pan, you'll notice it starting to puff up and rise almost like you're baking them, and this is exactly what we're looking for. And honestly, the hardest part of this whole recipe is trying not to eat them all while you cook the other ones. Seriously, it's almost impossible. Which is why if you look really closely, you may or may not notice one of the English muffins go missing during this. But regardless, let's carry on. What's so cool about this recipe is that you'll really be amazed as to how much these look like store-bought English muffins. If you put these in a package, you would have anyone thinking you just got back from the store with them, right up until the moment they tasted one. Because there's really no contest that these will be the best English muffins you've ever had in your life. They're just ridiculously soft and airy, and they really pack such a good flavor punch. These are dangerous. You're going to want to make them a weekly occurrence to make sure you have them on tap for breakfast because they're that good, especially after you toast them and butter them up, which is 100% mandatory. So seriously, give this easy recipe a shot for your next weekend brunch. They're so easy, you can make them the same morning. There's really no excuse not to. Oh, also, I have to check, have you smashed that like button below yet? And have you subscribed? I would really love it if you did. It helps me out so much. Make sure you comment and tell me below what else you want to see me cook. But until then, we'll see you next time.